You see, people have just started to get naturally quieter, which means they can sense something's going to happen.
It's a consent.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Red Bull Music Academy here in East London. We are here as part of the lead up to the big Red Bull Academy taking place in New York this year. We're in the application process at the moment, so you probably know a little bit about it, but for those that don't, it's every year it's a place where musicians and creatives and producers and singers and DJs from all over the world can get together and be part of quite a unique hotbed of creativity and play together and jam together and do lectures together and seminars together. New people, and also Red Bull brings together some fantastically legendary musicians and DJs and producers from all around the world in this kind of hotbed that happens once a year. So the application process for that is open at the moment. So if you want to get involved, anyone here, anyone that's watching on Boiler Room TV, go to the Red Bull Academy, Music Academy website, and you can download your application form. It's quite special. But tonight, right now, after some fantastic lectures in music we've had already, we have a very special lecture and a very special guest. Someone who is, how do we describe the man sitting next to me? Well, a producer, musician, DJ, director, lyricist. Where do we start? A man who's changed the face of popular music over the past decade. Yeah, squinting on that one. Someone who's...
It's still kind of the same face.
It's the same face. The man behind one of, not just the most influential, but one of the best bands of the past decade. I'm very, very pleased to welcome to the Red Bull Music Academy, Mr. James Murphy.
Thanks.
Good response, good response.
That's very nice.
So we'll be talking a bit about your life and your career and your influences, maybe play some music, and there's going to be a Q&A at the end for you guys and people who are watching online at boilerroom.tv.
I've planned a lot.
Yeah?
No.
Haven't planned anything. Earlier we were just chatting about this. You just said, we'll just talk and play music. It's going to be fine. So I'm going to start right
If I planned it, I would ruin it.
You won't ruin it?
No, if I planned it, I would ruin it.
Okay. Yeah. Don't plan anything at the last minute.
It's also really weird to hear your voice from over there. For me.
It's actually, I've got a ventriloquist.
I keep thinking the monitor's broken. Because as a singer, I'm used to, if you hear that, that's weird. And I'd be like waving to the monitor guy to turn it up. And there's no monitor.
Can we get over that?
Yeah. I'll pretend, I'll move on, but I'm not going to get over it.
Let's start at the start. I want to talk to you about your very earliest musical influences. Did you have a musical childhood? Was your growing up, were you surrounded by music?
I grew up in a I guess I'd say it's a musical family. My parents weren't particularly musical. They were kind of they liked music. My father really liked jazz and worked as a bouncer at a jazz club called the Totem Pole in Boston when he was young. He was born in 1931, so I was the last child. I have to call it a Catholic surprise. Like, oh, shit. Well, there goes the sewing room type of extra kid. Like, you know, last enough that my brothers who taught me how to ride a bike and nobody taught me how to tie my shoes. And my parents found that out when I was way too old to not know how to tie my shoes. And they were like, why don't you tie your shoes? I'm like, I don't know how to do it. And they're like, why? And I'm like, if I was older, I would have said, if I'd known more about life, I would have said, why don't you ask yourself that? But at the time, I was like, I don't know. I don't know why I don't know how to do that. I guess I should know that. So, no, he was very into music and had a lot of records. And we listened to music, but they weren't like performative people, though my dad had a beautiful voice. My mom didn't sing very much. But my sisters and brothers played music, and my sister that's closest to me in age was a really exceptional singer and classical singer and like jazz singer. But it wasn't like a musical family. Like they weren't like a creative. Like I asked for piano lessons. Like what little boy asked for piano lessons? I was like, Mom, please, can I have piano? She was like, no. Just go outside and throw rocks. I don't know. They just go do boy stuff. And so I never got piano lessons.
But you're always drawn towards music.
Yeah, I made music from as early as I can remember. I had an aunt who was very musical, and and her house was filled with instruments, and you could go play everything except for like 2 guitars, which were nice, and you weren't allowed to touch those. But she had like, you know, auto harps and mandolins and banjos and ukuleles and guitars and pianos and like just a basement filled with instruments.
So you were surrounded by this stuff when you were very, very young?
Well, that was when we went to visit. Then we go back to my parents' house, and there'd be a TV. And then when I begged for a piano, because I thought it would be classy, because I wanted to be classy, because I'm from kind of a shitty town. When you're from a shitty town, you'd be like, we could have a piano and then a butler. If you're from that, you're like, get me out of here. No, but I wanted a piano because I thought it would be classy. And my mom was like, you wanted a piano? We did one better. We got an organ, a double-decker organ that lights up, the keys lit up with the notes. So they'd be like A, B, C, D, E, F, A again. And they'd all light up and make a fluorescent. It's awesome now.
It's amazing. I mean, now, that'd be a brilliant thing.
When you're like 11, it was just like, this sucks. I mean, I just could have made Suicide Records all day with this thing. It had a beatbox in it. It was called the Thomas the Drummer. It had bass pedals. And now I wish I had it.
Have you been looking for one on eBay?
No. Don't give me any more eBay ideas.
What about your kind of earliest musical obsessions that were kind of yours, or things that kind of you heard that maybe didn't belong to your brothers and sisters? You were like, this is my record. This speaks to me.
Well, for a long time, it was definitely hand-me-downs from my brothers and sisters.
Like what?
Well, my brother was into classic rock and prog rock. So when I was 8, I got a stereo for my birthday, which was my brother's best friend across the street's old stereo, which was really classy. It was like a amber plastic case with like 2 little plastic speakers, and I got 2 Yes albums.
Proggy.
Very proggy. I got Relayer, which is like, I'm like 8, and I have a record that has like 3 songs on it. One song is just a whole side with like movements. I actually still totally love this band and know way too much about Yes, and I occasionally have Yes days where I just listen to just nothing but crazy prog rock for the whole day. But and I was into my own. For me, I was really into sounds. So I was into like refrigerator hums and fans and things like that. I was being from like a, born in the 30s, married in the 50s, Irish Catholic family. That was like that was a replacement for like hugs, like a warm refrigerator hum. It was as if someone was saying like, you're okay, as opposed to, why are you so lazy? And but my first record that I remember being like, this is my record, like I am listening to this and my siblings are not, was the first Clash record. That was and the first Clash record and the first Violent Femmes records. Those are the first things that were wholly mine. The first record that I owned were I bought 2 7-inches. One was Gilbert O'Sullivan, Alone Again Naturally.
That's a heart-wrenching tune.
Yeah, I'm
really
6,
sad song.
and this was the record I want. Can I have that? And I listened to, it's such a shitty little fucking miserable, manipulative kid. I remember no one was taking me out for trick-or-treating, and I had a Darth Vader costume, and I was like sitting on a chair in my room, like listening to it over and over with the costume, because my dad was late. My mom had to stay home and give the fucking candy out to the other little selfish shits, and I had to sit at home and wait to someone to take me out. You know what I mean? And my mom was like, I don't know how to explain to this idiot that I can't leave the house because there's other things that don't revolve around you and Darth. And then, and my dad comes running in, and this is the most emotionally like concerned I've ever seen my dad. He was like, what's going on? Where is he? And I'm upstairs, and it's like several hours after I'm supposed to be going out trick-or-treating. Like I was little enough that I should go out in the sunlight. And I was just sitting there listening to Alone Again Naturally really loud over and over and over, like crying inside the little hot breath plastic toxic, probably getting, so I will get brain cancer from this day.
That must.
And then my dead parents will feel terrible. And just crying in my mask until my dad took me out, and then I was, ugh. And he's like, I'm sorry, I got stuck in a meeting. Which again, this is the only memory I have of my dad like having that kind of like sorry. Normally it was like tough, which wasn't even said; it was just implied, because saying it would be too much communication. And I got dragged around. The other one was Fame by David Bowie.
Amazing.
Another great song, and I still like both of those songs for different reasons.
What was it about Bowie, because that's with Bowie. It's not just the music; it's the production is amazing, the singing is so distinctive, and the visual, the whole aspect of Bowie world is quite different.
Well, I was 6, so for me,
It's just got funny eyes.
it was for me. It was like my brother had David Live,
Awesome record,
which
yeah.
was leaning. And I remember when I was a year later, when I was 7, and punk was a thing that people talked about, and my brother was the right age for it, but not the right guy. He wasn't that guy. He was a football player, and he was a totally sweet guy, but he just wasn't. Bring the system down, man. He was like, system's fine, okay. Just system allows me to play play tackle or guard defensively. So I walked in and I was like, and I was really confused by the cover of David Live, because I don't know if you've seen, it's like he's in a pale suit, and he looks like he's just fallen from a tree, and there's a photo from above, but he's standing. He looks like he's slightly broken, and he's like all pale and orange and white. And I was just like, this was confusing to me. And my brother was like, he's the first punk rocker, That guy's the first punk rocker. What they're calling punk rock, he was already doing that. And I was like, okay, well, I've got to go buy something by him.
If my brother says that, it's got to be cool.
Yeah, well, I just thought it was cool, and I bought it, and it scared me a little bit. The vocal, when it fame, I didn't understand it. I thought it was weird, but I liked it.
I mean, there's
But that was still kind of after my brother.
So this fascination with music, this not music as an emotional crutch, but a place to go. There's obviously a big emotional link with you in music from that early age. When does that turn into you making your own music that you've created that didn't exist before you strummed a guitar?
Well, I was...
Let's say like 6.5 now.
No, yeah, I mean, no, in truth, there's two different types of making music for me, I guess. There was like the ideation of like, I would like to be a rock star, which is, when you're like... you're like, I will be an astronaut. No, that's lame now. Now I'd like to be a truck driver. It's like one of those idiotic things that has nothing to do with life that I believed. I don't remember what it was. I wanted to be everything, and but I always made music because it was something I could do at home. But that was separately from that, like making. I had a 5-string guitar that I borrowed from somebody, stole, and don't steal, stay in school. But they. I would just like write little shitty songs on it, and I was doing that when I was like 10 or 11. But before that, and for as long as I can remember, I would sing these weird melodies. I had like 4 songs that I know innately in my head that I never considered writing, because for me they were born in my head. Like they existed. They're like a thing. And like if it was Jungian, you'd be like, it's like, like there's like a zeitgeisty song that's rolling through my brain, which comes from listening to machines. It's listening to refrigerator hums and listening to this. American power is 60 cycles, 110 or 120 volts, whereas British power is like 50 and 220.
So you're saying that American electricity has a different BPM to
It's a different sound. No, it's a significant, well, because if you have a direct current machine, like a blender, air conditioner, compressor, things that are like a mechanical spinning thing, you don't put a transformer on it. You don't dick with the power to run that machine. They're old machines, so they're used to just go like, they just turn on and off and they whip around. That's how they work. So they make a tone. So American machines sound different than European or Japanese or English machines.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, they make it
very nerdy.
I know this because I had to figure out why I would come to, and air conditioners in Europe and England would keep me awake, and in America I'd be like, instantly asleep. And it's that machine sound. And I figured that out because I had an espresso grinder that was European, and I was like, can I switch it to, I asked a guy, can I make it American power? Can I
Can I retune it?
Well, no, just because I was like, it's a pain to plug in at home. I was like, I don't want to buy a transformer. Is there any way I can just switch it? Because I had done that to synthesizers. I'd had somebody go in and just change the transformer. And the guy was like, well, no, this doesn't have a transformer on it. It's a motor. I'm like, I don't understand. That's when he explained to me, like, motors are this direct connection to electricity, whereas like computers and all these other things, they have a transformer. This computer, this part needs 12 volts, that needs 4 volts, and they have all these little transformers that give the right things the right amount of power. This is what everybody came for, right?
Yeah, it's just like,
hold on, Mom, I'll come to dinner later. Wait, how many volts? You ruined it.
There's two people that are just like, wow.
No, but
That's amazing.
But no, but
What?
that's just, yeah, that's the anyway. That sound,
music, yeah,
the
making
sound of
music.
American Machines would have a very physical effect on me, a very powerful physical effect. It would make me fall asleep. It would make me feel very sad. It just had all this emotional content for me. So I would, I would sing these little songs that had a lot of emotional power for me. But when I would be in a band, like when I was like 13, and I was in a new wave band called The Extremes. And,
That's not a bad name, The
pretty good.
Extremes. It's not like,
1983?
was it an X at the start? Extremes?
No, EX. We'd spell it. we're avoiding copyright. And we were in the Mystery Meats, was another band, and I was in a band called Great when I was 15.
Were they great?
No, we could go up on stage and be like, "Hey, we're great." That was the joke. And that had none of that physical relationship to me. Like it was really unsatisfying and really frustrating. And I played guitar and sang like Flock of Seagulls songs and stuff off of Shaboo Shabba by INXS. Really classics. And I had a delay pedal, so I could play Iran, and nobody else had a delay pedal, so I was the best guitar player in my school. But that was like one other thing. It was like an idea, like I would like to do this, and I would like to do this because of how I view people who make music, and I would like people to view me in that way. And that is like the dominant like thought process of me making music for most of my life until I got much older. And it wasn't until later that I realized that was a bad idea for me, and that if I was going to make music, I should be making it from the other place, which is trying to find that thing that machines make me feel.
So when did that start? If we're jumping ahead a little bit.
In my 30s, late 20s, early 30s.
Was it like an epiphany when you were like, this is what I've been missing?
Well, no, I'd always found a way to address that by being an engineer. I learned to be a recording engineer. I was the only guy I was obsessed with sound, and I didn't understand what that meant really, but I would be the one like listening to my record, and I'd rewind it, and I'd be like, dude, do you hear that snare? I'll play it again. Do you hear it? I'm like, yeah, I fucking hear it. I have ears attached to the side of my fucking head. And I'd be like, no, but do you hear, like, that's great. Do you hear that? And I became really obsessed with how things were, how things got made, and I wanted to find out how they got, how do you do that? How do you make things sound like that? And that was a really pure instinct for me, because I was really like, it wasn't about like what anybody thought about me. It was really like, I want to know how this works. And so I became a good engineer and a terrible musician, which is a great way to make a living. And so you could be like, so you can sit there and be like, hey guys, do you like the drum sound I got you? And they could be like, whatever, man. Check it out, I'm awesome. And you're like, I'm not, but I'll keep working. And so I got really into that. And when I was in bands, I became a drummer later because I thought being a guitar player was too egotistical. And being a singer guitar player was even worse. Which is if you know a young singer guitar player, just know that they're going to be a nightmare for about 6 years. When I started playing drums, something changed because I was hitting things, and I was like, I hit this more and it's louder, and this was awesome. Whereas I just played guitar and I got really frustrated with it because my fingers are too big and I can't make the notes, and people that have been like, I've been playing for 2 months. And I'm like, I've been playing since I was 11. And I just was terrible. And I met this one guy who was like a violin player who just picked up a guitar and was like, oh, check it out. And his name is Bill Yotaka Yokoyama. And if for some reason anybody knows him, he's possibly the best natural musician I've ever seen in my life. It was the closest I'd ever come to watching like Hendrix. And I'm not joking. Watching someone laughing and playing and being like, check this out. How cool is this? And you're like, that is cool. How can you have a conversation about how awesome what you're doing is while doing it?
While you're doing
when
it.
I'm like, I can't even look at you because I'm going to play the wrong thing. And so I started playing drums as a way to get away from what I thought was undignified ego. And then just was a tyrant and an egomaniac drummer. No, you're playing it wrong. Let me show you. And I'll tune their guitars. And but playing drums had a physicality to it that I started liking. And then I learned how to tune them. And then I learned how to record them. And then I learned that I liked volume, not just to be cool, but because it felt good. Like it just felt good in my chest. It was a physical response to music. And that was like, I think the first, and that was in my 20s. That was the first kind of connection to that, really. Because before I liked volume for the same reason, just didn't know it. I just turned up music really loud wherever I went. but I didn't know why. I didn't know why that it was like I didn't understand that other people didn't necessarily feel that way. They didn't if the bass wasn't right, if it was if things are out of phase, my eyes water. I'm like it feels like someone's pressing on my head, and it drives me totally insane because it totally fucks with the physicality. It creates a vacuum. And so I'd be changing speaker wires in stores and bars, which makes you very popular, especially if you're a little drunk. Don't worry, I got it, I'm a professional. And but that physicality really became a big something, and then it gave me a goal for the technical stuff. Like I'm going to chase this sound, and so I spent the '90s kind of chasing physical sound, which meant that the only job I was suited for, and the only job I excelled at, was to be a live sound engineer for punk bands. Which I don't know if you know this, not that lucrative. It's not
Really?
It's not like a career path. Like then you will be the best live sound band.
Of the 8 in the country, I'm the best.
I'm number one. But it meant that because if you were a sound man for a big band, there's decibel limitations and there's an endless amount of power. You could spec giant PA systems and everyone wants it to sound like the record and the audience gets annoyed if it's too loud and if it doesn't sound like the record. That's the primary thing. It's to sound professional. Whereas for a punk band, it's like I made people throw up. Like we did a show. I did it for the Six Finger Satellite, which is this band from the 90s who's, if you haven't heard, is amazing and they're way ahead of their time. And it's Juan McLean from DFA's band. He was the guitar player. And we did a sound in a place in Princeton University, a little wooden room. And they said, sorry, we rented out the PA that you guys that was spec'd for this event. And all we have is the big one. How much do you want of it? And I was like, well, we want all of it. So it's a room about this size. And there was the system was spec'd for like a 2,000 capacity room. So it was 4, I don't know if anyone knows anything, 4 quad 15s on either side of the stage, and then the tops to match. And it was the meters didn't even move. Like I had it so low that it was just like, is this on? Little green lights kind of flickering. Hello. And it sounded amazing. It didn't hurt at all. And then they were playing, and this 2 kids came up. One guy was so excited, and he's yelling the top of his lungs, and what I hear is, hey man, what, this sounds so good. But I'm so sorry to be this guy. But can you turn it down a tiny bit? Because my friend's having the best time, but he's throwing up. And he doesn't want to leave. And I look over, and there's a guy that's like, ugh, and he's like, ah, like he's seriously, and he's made the mistake of leaning against the wall where the bass gets so much louder against a membrane. He's just like, I'm just gonna, but he was like really psyched. And he was like, in Princeton University, it's all like oak and, ancient rugs by somebody who used to own people. And he's just, ah. And so I did. It was the only time I've ever turned down for anybody. I was the only time I was like, I'm gonna turn down for you, dude. He was like, yeah. So yeah, that was the job that all this had prepared me for until I made DFA and found a way to actually have a job doing the obsessive compulsive shit that I wanted to do.
Normally, I think if you've ever seen those sort of big TV shows or whatever where someone introduces like somebody famous, then they mention like a film or they've done, and there's a smattering of applause. When he says DFA, I was kind of expecting everyone to kind of go, clap, clap. Definitely
We don't need to do that.
The record label is kind of... let's talk about setting that up then, because it's still a part of your life now.
Yes. In fact, it was the name Death from Above came.
It was the PA, wasn't that right?
It was me doing sound for the reasons I've just described, because it was horrifyingly loud. And I would rewire sound systems. I would lie to the house engineer and be like, oh, I think I left something back, and just go rewire stuff. Like run all the 15s in series so they drop the ohmage down to the amp and be much more efficient and louder, and all sorts of, yeah, that's the kind of stuff. Ladies, huh? That shit is sexy. Oh boy, lonely years. No, but so, I was notoriously loud. And then when I met Tim Goldsworthy, who was my partner originally in DFA, he was cool, and I'd never known anybody cool before. I had seriously had never.
Really?
He was like properly cool. Like He was very aloof. He had been an uncle. This is what he did, and he was like on the cover of magazines and things like that. And I was just like, I was just angry. I was like a grumpy guy that was like, you know, everybody's so successful, but nobody knows how to engineer, and that record is, you can just tell that there's just over compression and all sorts of like really effective mind games for yourself, like how to get ahead. I don't want to be successful because look at all those jerks and girlfriends. And so he was cool, and we started talking about music, and I was like, well, what's the first show you ever went to? And he was like, the Ramones. What's the first show you ever went to? And I was like, the Ramones. It was like, were you secretly really into the Smiths? And like, by the way, we can all say this now, but in like 1998, it was not cool to have been heavily into the Smiths in high school. It's now, everyone has like those goggles are like, yes, it was. It's totally cool. Look at it now. And they're like, no, it wasn't. I remember getting into a huge argument with somebody who really liked Radiohead, and I was like, this guitar playing kind of sounds like they're really into the Smiths. Whoa, dude, no way. This stuff is cool. It's not that wussy stuff. And now it's been the history gets rewritten in cycles, and it's very cool to have been in the Smiths. But at the time, we were both like, I was a huge, huge Smiths fan. He's like, so was I. So I was like, well, wait, I have a lot in common with this guy who's really cool. Maybe I can be cool. Like maybe, or maybe we can just like make stuff. Like, and it was the first time I felt like there was a hope of, rather than just being like, I'm gonna make an alternative to that, and not just a bitter alternative for my friends, like willful self-annihilation by being like, well, we don't even play in 4/4 ever, because we're not fucking sellouts. We keep our vocals completely inaudible, which is the 90s for me, completely. It's like, well, this thing's it's in 11 for the first half, and then it drops into 4/4 once as like a joke, and then it goes into, and then it's in fives. I think everybody played in fives for a while. There was like, I wish I was kidding. But there was this band after band like swaying awkwardly to out of time signatures and then looking at each other. Is this when we change? And I was like, well, maybe we can just like do what we think rules and is embarrassing and just do what our taste says. And shockingly, a whole bunch of people were like, and I think partially people liked it because we were so uncool that they were like, these guys don't care.
They're cool.
They don't give a shit, man. I better get on this train before I look like I don't see the Emperor's New Clothes. But yeah, so that was miraculously paying no heed to what would work, doing what we liked with optimism was effective, and then and doing what I knew, which made me hate myself for my whole childhood, because every time they had a speaker come in. And people would, like a speaker come into my high school or my junior high school, and they'd be like, well, you should just do what you love. And if you're going to write what you know, like all that kind of shit that made you want to bash people's head. And then you're like, shit, that's totally right. And I wasted
all I should do.
Wasted 15 years trying to do what I hated.
Just make the music that you want to hear would have been the lesson.
Yeah, would have been a good idea. But I think when you're young, I think taste is so confusing, because it's all wrapped up in your self-image and what you want to be and aspiration and all these other things, that it's like taste is like hormones when you're younger, I think.
What do you mean?
It's really powerful, and it really identifies you and makes you irrational. Like you can be like, do you like that? And you're like, if you don't know what the answer is, what's the right answer, it can be terrifying. So do you like that band? And you're like, yeah, some of it, but the other parts are lame. I like the parts you like. I think it's a solid. Yeah, totally, it's bullshit. Oh God, can we just go hang out and agree? And I think it's a genuine terror. It's terrifying to be like lame. And I think the world has responded by creating an internet world in which we can always be cool. You can just go back and delete your likes from your page, and you can always just take a picture of yourself where you don't look fat, and you can put that out for the world, and you can only join a group where everybody agrees with you, and you can avoid going to a record store and being called an idiot. Can I pick up that record? Yeah, if you hate music. So I can smash it in the parking lot and then get the What's Your Shirt Stooges record instead of this one.
So it's actually pretty important. It's actually pretty important not to worry about, trying to be fashionable, not to worry about be cool, not to worry about name checking the right bands, is kind of what you're saying.
But that's like saying don't try to get like get a girlfriend. Like don't worry about it, son. Just be yourself. And if she doesn't like you, then there's something wrong with her. It's like the worst advice ever. Like, what kid ever internalized that? Like, what guy was like, you know what, you're right, fuck you. If she doesn't like Dungeons and Dragons, if she does not like my teddy bear shirt, then she doesn't know what she's missing. She wants to go out with that guy who's popular and does stuff and has a car, fuck her. It doesn't work, because then, nobody has ever internalized that. It won't. Like, when you get older, you can kind of look back and be like, the shit that I thought was cool sucked, and I wasted a lot of time doing that, and now I'm just going to calm down. But, like, when you're developing yourself, like, when you're developing as a band, it's like, you can't. I just don't think that, like, I think I'm only able to have made music because I was just old as dirt when we started. I mean, I released the first LCD record when I was 35. That's not old as dirt. You get way older, I found. And but it's like, that's pretty old for like, and the new debut album from the hot young middle-aged substitute teacher guy. What? I mean, I think that made me sane, but somebody else might take exception to that definition. But also, I think it made it possible for me.
Let's talk a bit about
longest answer to not question.
It's good. Let's talk a bit about the start of LCD Sound System. I mean,
can we warm this up? It's nice and toasty.
Being a DJ and
which, by the way, brings me back to being a teenager. Warm Budweiser. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
The birth of LCD, being a label boss and being a DJ and being a musician, is very different to releasing an album with your name on it, of your songs. Was it a scary process doing that, kind of putting out that first record? Because it got big and it got very acclaimed pretty quickly.
Well, that was the plan.
That's a good plan.
We all just got in a room, we had a focus group, and we were like, can you make like a 7-minute song that's a little too slow for anyone to DJ and just ramble over it? Because that is what the kids are responding to right now. No, I was so excited about being confident. We had done a remix of Le Tigre, which is a band that Kathleen Hanna was like one of the coolest people in my mind ever, because she had been really cool in the 90s in Bikini Kill, and I really liked her music. And then she was doing Le Tigre, and she was working with synthesizers, and like it was just this punk feminist party. Like it was like super forward in what she believed in, like as far as a message, and you would just totally go dance. And I remember hearing Decepticon, the song we remixed, the original version, at these parties, and I was like, people love this fucking song. It's like a party. And I was like, and I was also friends with Marcus Lampkin, who's now Shit Robot on DFA, and he was a proper DJ. He DJed at like Save the Robots in New York, which is like a legendary Laughter Hours club, and he was DJing like dance music, and I was like, I want people to respond. I want this somehow to get over there, like where he can play it. And I was so excited, and we did a remix, and people liked it and played it, and I was suddenly like, it was like kind of cool. Like I was DJing a little bit, and I would play the music that I liked. There was a lot of, if not confidence, but fun enhancing going on. And I was just like, the world is awesome suddenly. The world had always been terrible, and the world was just fucking awesome. I was like playing records, and we were having parties, and so I was like, all my bad ideas sounded good. Like instead of like me waiting for a good idea, which I would measure against what I imagined people to think, I was going like, I would love this, and I was like, I'm gonna make a song, and Adam Horovitz from the Beastie Boys. We had produced a record for him called BS 2000 and met him, and he, as a gift to me on his way driving home, bought a boombox with a cassette deck and a keyboard in it on a yard sale and was like, check this thing out, which is the kind of thing that's like a movie. Like, Ad Rock from the Beastie Boys gave you a present. It is a boombox with a keyboard and a beatbox in it. Like, you can't make that up. That shit writes itself. And I was like, this is the coolest gift from the coolest dude, the coolest moment of my life. And I turned it on, and there was a beat in it, and I was like, I got an idea. I had already had the name LCD Sound System. I was like, I'm going to just hold this thing and walk out with it. I'm going to put it on a bar stool and put a mic up to it, and I'm just going to make shit up to it. And that's what Losing My Edge was. It was the beat from that I just played music over.
Simple as that.
Simple as that, yeah. And it was based on the first inklings of fear, which were, I wasn't saying that as a manipulation. That's my passive-aggressive way of getting cold beers. Oh, this is great. You guys really run a good show. Like totally texting my publicist, just next time there's no warm cold beer.
I'm storming back to my trailer.
It's outrageous. I don't know why I had that voice as that guy. But I had suddenly a moment of fear, which was like I was cool, and then I was not going to be cool because I went to a party and somebody else was playing the kinds of records I played, and I was like, oh no, I won't be able to DJ for 45 people once a week anymore because this other person's going to do it, and they're younger than me. And I was like, this fucking hack. And I was like, that's lame. I mean, you want people to like the music you like. That's the point. But no. And so I made a song, and I just made it up. Just played drums. I set up a drum set, recorded it, and had the beatbox going through the amplifier and a big Fender Rhodes, which has a suitcase version, has an amplifier in it. Again, nerdy fact that nobody needs. And I just put on my headphones, and I just made up the words to Losing My Edge while playing the drum part and recorded it all.
At the same time?
Yeah. That's why the timing is so weird, because I'm like waiting. I'm like, and then, okay, so, and I wasn't holding the mic. That'd be really something.
Yeah.
Shit, dude, I was just holding the mic. I was blind. I just killed it. I did, but that's where it was. And then I went and played bass and did some other stuff over it and edited it and redid some of the vocals. But it's about 90% just the made-up part. And that, I'd already had the other side of the first 12-inch, which was this song Beat Connection, which I'd been working on for a year for no good reason.
It's a long time.
I just wanted it to be a 20-minute song with disco drums that was on the grid, with congas and disco drums, because I had this song called At Midnight, called At Midnight. Who did At Midnight? I don't know. It's a Larry Levan song called At Midnight, and the beginning is like 4.5 minutes of just disco drums. It's great with congas. And I used to play it, and then it would run out. It would just run out right when I wanted to keep going. So I was like, I'm just going to make that, but without the song that happens after it, which took me a year. But then the other song, Lose My Edge, took me like 2 weeks, and then it was done. And I brought it up to the label to be like, this is what I want to put out. And John Galkin, who runs DFA Records, and Tim Goldsworthy, my partner, were horrified and actually like embarrassed for me. And like there was like a conversation. It was like, maybe he's drinking too much. Like literally, like I've seen this before. Tim had said, like this is a problem. And they just thought I was going to humiliate myself. And I was like, no, put it out. And then only Phil Mossman, who was, who wound up being the guitar player in LCD, and he had been in like Two Lone Swordsmen and stuff like that. He was like, he knew his shit. But he also just was like, weird Phil. He was the only person who he was old enough to laugh. He was like, this rules. He's like, this is great. This is hilarious. And I was like, but it's not funny. It's sad. I guess. And so we put it out. And it was never supposed to be a band. It was just supposed to be just a thing. And it did really well, which means I think we sold, I don't know, like a few thousand of them. Like it wasn't like we always were like people were like, it's doing super well. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I just bought another jet. It's like it's been downloaded a bunch of times by people who like to hate music and are still trying to figure out how to hate this. It's going to take them another 20 minutes. But it wound up being a good thing. And then that literally was something I'd never done before, which was make something that was really embarrassing, and just be like, all right. And if I hadn't had like enough good things happening to me, like I don't think I would have had the strength of character just on my own to have put it out. Like, I'm not that guy. I'm not like, I don't care what you think. Like, even if I don't care, I don't have the strength to go against it completely confidently making things. It was like a little bit of something good happening to me gave me like kind of like the boost of energy to take that kind of a chance. And without whatever happened before it, I don't think I would have been able to make a band and make all the things. Like, and it's a thing that I think people like to think of like, oh, the musician, they're, nobody cared about them and they just did it. And there are some people who just do it. Like, I don't know that, Mark Smith is just like, thank goodness I got that good review. Now I guess I will go make another record where basically it's the vinyl equivalent of telling everyone to just go fuck themselves. But like, for me, like, I needed that. And now that I have that behind me, I can look at my life differently and I can be like, I'm going to make what I like, and I can get over caring too much about what people think to stop myself. But without that kind of burst of positive reinforcement, I don't know that would have been possible.
And you did form a band. It did become a band. It became an enormously successful, world-straddling monster with fantastic records and incredible reviews. And
it's like a creepy porn.
What?
The world-straddling monster.
How did you cope with this enormous success and the critical acclaim and everything? Because it's one thing doing it on a limited edition or doing it for your friends or doing it in one city. When you start playing big shows and you start getting people who know all about you and getting coverage in the media, was that a strange thing to have to deal with?
I think, honestly, I was two things were really helpful. One was just being older. Like, I can't say that enough. Like, just being a little bit older and just being like, I'm not afraid that this will go away. I don't want it to go away, but I'm not afraid. I'm not going to die. I know I've lived 35 years without any, and it wasn't awesome, but it was just all right. And if I could, and now nobody can take the knowledge of this working away from me. Like, if it all just went away tomorrow, I still know that I can make things that make me proud. So that's like a really comforting thought. Like, you can't take I'm not going to not be able to, unless I'm deafened, which is actually something I think about because I'm neurotic. But like, unless like my hearing is just ruined, and then I would be able to do something else. Like, I believe I can make things now. So it wasn't scary that it would go away. It wasn't lucrative, like, really. It wasn't like I was like, woo, I bought a huge jet. No, it's just like, so it wasn't like there was nothing to lose. And I lived a life of kind of man-boy frugality for so long that there was like, I remember the first time I got a publishing offer from like a publishing company, which is, if you know the ins and outs of the music business, that's like the secret everything. And this guy
that's the big pot of cash for just writing songs.
If people buy your records or play them on the radio. It is. But somebody offered me a chunk of money, a lot more money than I'd ever had, and I said, I don't want it. And they were like, why? And I was like, I forget how much it was, but it was like $300,000. It was a lot of money. And I said, no, because I can't buy an apartment. If you're going to give me a lot of money, I want to go buy, like, I want to be like, that was the money. Now I don't have that money anymore, but I do own this apartment. I don't have a mortgage. Because everything else is a coke habit and nice shoes. Because it's like, I don't know what to do with that middle amount of money. Like, I was 30-something, and I've been like, that. I can't believe they raised the 50 cents. I don't eat there anymore, and I just done that my whole life. So it's like, it wasn't like I was like, oh, phew, like the flat screen TV is going to arrive now. I didn't really want that stuff. I wanted a house. Like, I wanted to be like, well, $1 million, I could go buy an apartment and then have money for the label. Like, I could do something. It made sense. But $300,000 was like enough to just develop bad spending habits that would eventually I wouldn't be able to cover, and then it'd be kind of embarrassing. So I think that kind of preparation made me sane. The other thing that made me sane was just being a flat-out failure at the thing that I loved, which is actually a wonderful gift to me. No joking, no kid, not kidding at all. Like, I was a really sensitive kid. You can refer back to the punishing, cruel, and manipulative Halloween story. I was a self-important kid, ergo the singing guitar player. And to have gotten success in that mindset would have been toxic for me for the rest of my life. I think, or maybe I would have gone to therapy and sorted it out. But I think failing and being like 26 and being in a dead end relationship and hating my girlfriend and knowing that she hates me and then I can't move out because I'm a drummer, and just sort of like being in a band. I was a year that I hadn't written a song. I was like, I don't have a job because I'm a musician, but I don't make music. I was just like being that kind of dead end and being like this, like it got me to be like, this is certainly not what I had planned when I was like, 14 and the youngest guy in the band full of 17-year-olds. And failing like that got me to begin the process that started when I was 26 of resetting my life, which set me up for when I was 28, 29, meeting Tim and starting the label and, having something go well. And I don't think that would have worked out if I had been like, because I think I would be right now if I had any success at all. Like, and I'd be like complaining right now, a lot. I'd be like, it's because people don't listen to what I really mean. The lyrics, everyone thinks I'm like this, but I'm like that. Like I just never would have been satisfied. I think because nothing would have felt as good as what I thought it was supposed to feel like. Now it's just so much better than what it was. I'm like, yeah, this is cool. Thanks.
We are going to have a bit of a Q&A now. I know there's obviously people here.
So you got 3 questions in.
Wow,
sorry about that.
Let's all do the questions. We're going to have some questions from the floor, not from that dude, and also from Boiler Room TV, who are people are soliciting questions online. So where do we start? Somebody put your hand up. Gentleman in the orange
Picked
shirt.
you from the sea of hands.
Yeah. My friend just texted me to ask when he can buy your rotary mixer that you were talking about on Beats in Space.
All right. I'll reiterate it because you don't have a microphone for those people at home. Both of you, he asked if when is he going to be able to? When is his friend who texted him going to be able to buy the rotary mixer that I talked about on Beats in Space Radio? For background, Beats in Space Radio is Tim Sweeney, DJ from New York's radio show that runs concurrently. Yes, give it up. One hand, one clap. This is
That was the round of applause we were waiting for earlier.
It's a lot easier on the internet to speak out, isn't it? Tim Sweeney's a DJ, and he's awesome. He's a friend of mine. And the mixer is I've been working with a guy, this guy Justin from a company called Isonoe in London to design a DJ mixer because, well, we want to rake in the money with the bespoke rotary DJ mixer. No, but it's been great. It's basically like I just wanted a mixer that I could carry that was a little, I have a Bozak at home, which is an old rotary mixer with very little flexibility. And most of the time it's these laptops with interfaces that you normally see, which are fine. But I wanted a slightly more flexible mixer, so we've been working on one for 2.5 years. Again, to just rush it into the marketplace and capitalize on the non-movement of buying expensive bespoke gear. So that's coming. Hopefully, I'm going to meet with him in the next couple of days. I don't know. We're still in the AutoCAD things of like what kind of jacks. Today we've been talking about whether the effect send should be balanced or unbalanced.
What about the ENS?
I don't want to talk smack about it, but it's not for me. It's a single isolator. This is 2 isolators you can assign to any channel with a high pass filter rather than a high and low EQ. I prefer using that. I also like the phono preamps better. The ENS didn't beat my Bozak. It beat other things, but it didn't beat my Bozak, and I wanted to beat my Bozak. That again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, just sounds creepy.
Have we got Boiler Room TV, I think. Have we got some questions from the online?
Hello.
Yay!
Hello,
How you doing?
over here.
Oh,
Cool.
hello again.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions coming through. There's somebody on Twitter, female band, said, have you got any tips for artists at home who are very poor and you have bass amp, guitar, garage band, and a few sexy guitar pedals? Is there anywhere they can kind of start?
Wait. I'm going to get my head in front of the speaker because to me it just sounds like...
Wow. Do you have any startup tips for anyone who's only got GarageBand, a bass amp, and some sexy guitar pedals?
I mean, first off, I would get the bass. If you have just the bass amp. Startup tips. I don't know. I mean, limitations. I think what's happened that's a little funny is that because of how cheap it is to have a computer and do everything, people don't have limitations. They have limitations, but they feel that they're just that. There's a band called the Young Marble Giants, which is a little beatbox, bass, and singing, and it's really simple, and it's beautiful, and it's incredible, and it wouldn't have been better with a ton of production. So I can't blame anybody for wanting more and to use more and to like have tons of layers, but I would just say kind of maybe forget all that stuff and try to make stuff that's small or really singular, try and find a voice, because all those programs like GarageBand, which I use on an iPad to sketch things out and stuff like that, but they seem like just tools, like they're blank, but they're not. They have a sound and they have a tonality. When you turn on a keyboard, it has a delay and a reverb on it already. Like, I know that sounds silly, but it's like these sounds create a need for more sounds, and they're very professional. They're like small professional things rather than wonky personal things. So I would, just get a bass and just make a record with a bass. I know. I would be so refreshed if there was this is just a bass and it wasn't hyper self-consciously minimal, but it was just a bass and something small, or just pick one. So many times I've been producing people or like done consulting, and people are like, "What do you want me to do?" And I'm like, "Pick one drum machine. You've got 6. You got the toms from this machine. You got the hi-hat, 2 different kick drums. Just pick a fucking drum machine." It's like people were blown away when they had drum machines and they just had one. Just pick one of them and strip it down. Get to know your tools before you start layering everything up, because it's really hard to progress. I think when you're dealing with that, it's like learning to fly a jet. It's like just fly a kite for a minute.
Any more questions?
Sounds so grumpy. I don't mean it to be grumpy. I mean it really positively.
Good advice. We've got to. We'll come to both of you, but we'll go at the back first with your hand up in the air. And we have a microphone as well.
Hi. You mentioned your lyrics at the end, and you've talked a lot about music production, but not your lyrics. I was wondering how much of your lyrics, when you're writing them, are kind of biographical, and how much of them are just for shits and giggles, because often they're really humorous, and like with Losing My Edge, obviously, there's like, were you really there for all of that? Come on. But then a lot of the time you feel it's very heartfelt, and I was wondering if there's like a process when you're songwriting.
Well, for me, Losing My Edge is completely heartfelt. And I'm not being ironic at all. Obviously, I wasn't there for those things because they happened before I was born, some of them. But the place from which that song comes, I think there's an overemphasis on like heart in music, and I think people think heart is sad or love or death or longing, in the kind of like sense that we know it. But that song is, to me, incredibly sad and incredibly heartfelt, and it's a lot about like longing. It's more about longing than a lot of love songs, which are really about like making you just not pay attention to them. Make even the list of bands at the end, which was I worked really hard on the list. The only thing I wrote of the song was the list at the end, and I queried my grumpy hipster friends. I was like, "What? I need a list of bands that is undeniably cool." Because I need it to be a symbol of an amulet, of a suit of armor, that when you've given up and all you have left is what you know, and that protects you from judgment. Because people are very afraid of being uncool or judged or stupid or wrong, and I wanted that the me in this song who has done this before, where like by knowing a lot about records and having rare 7 inches, and like you can't fuck with me, man. Like I've got slates. Like, you can't fucking, you don't know what you're talking about. Did you, really? Oh, you know about Johnny Machine. You know he was an I Died Fucking from Chicago. There's only 400 of those. I've got 2. And this was a really meaningful battle. This was like as meaningful to me as being loved or being immortal or anything. And that song, so like, that song to me is super autobiographical. It's as directly, it's the most direct song I have, I think. That, or there's a couple songs, but I think that's like the least filled with fluff thing that I know of for myself. And I'm pissed because it was the first song. And I was like, shit. Somebody literally said to me, like, can you do another song why don't you do another song where you list bands? It's like, oh, I never thought about that, really? Do another, really? It's never crossed my fucking mind. I've just been sitting here, what do I do? But that, I think a lot of songs for me are like, I try to make them not dishonest. It doesn't mean I try to make them honest or real, but I try to make them not unreal. And what that means is, there's a reason you make lyrics unreal. There's a reason bands stand a certain way on stage. There's a reason they say like, all right, you guys, fucking we having a good time. The reason they say this shit is to create something that is supposed to elicit a response that they are hoping for and that they understand. And an audience is trained to a certain degree, even if they don't feel it, to go, yeah! And it's evidenced by that. I made a joke once. I was at a show. I was like, I'm sorry, I don't say shit like, are you guys ready tonight? And people went, yeah! And I was like, fucking lonely moment with a lot of people around, water everywhere. But bands do things and they stand certain ways, and we had rules. There was no sunglasses on stage was a rule, and we had like no rocking out was a rule. And we relaxed those things for a while, but people would get kind of like James Brown fined. Like I'd be like, boom, you're rocking out. Like take it easy. No cool stuff, and because it's a shortcut for meaning, that it gives a simulacrum of meaning. It's like you're like, oh, this guy's feeling it. You know how you know he's feeling it? Because he's like, don't gotta know you till you tell me nothing, and I don't know you know him. And you're like, he just didn't say anything, but he's gonna die in a second if somebody doesn't know his knowing. And I just wanted to just really do away with that as much as humanly possible, because it seemed like one of those things people say is the end justifies the means. It's like, I love my band and I want to get it across. And if by being totally dishonest I do that, the end justifies the means. And I just didn't believe that. I just felt like I'd rather bore people for a good hour and then for 15 minutes they really get into it, than try to just keep them falsely excited constantly by content and by like being emotive. And lyrics for me are a way I often get really embarrassed. The songs that are that connected with people the most, I've had the hardest times letting be released. I remember when we made All My Friends, and I was like really like, I don't know if I can put this out at all. I felt it was like really poppy. I was really like, there was a chord change, which sounds silly, but this was like one of the first songs with a chord change that we had done, that was done on the record. And I was just like, there's goes this chord, and then it goes the other chord, and this is what's next? Boy band? Because all the songs, the first record are like just one note for like, we did songs with like a note, and I was excited about that because I was like, the world needs more songs with one note, which I did believe, and I still kind of believe. And that worked out to be that me being overly worried about it. But I don't remember, you were asking me about lyrics, and I just rambled off into it. I'm sorry about that.
That was a good answer. And that gentleman over here had his hand up before, please. Oh, actually, there's a mic coming over there, man.
Here comes the mic. Pass the mic.
Pass the mic check.
How was that final show as LCD? Did it feel like you'd drawn a line under it all?
Playing the show, it was easy to not feel that way because it wrapped up in like, I'm what I was feeling like, God damn it, we didn't get enough of a fucking sound check, and the lighting guy put up too many lights, we didn't have time, and I didn't get to see any liquid. Like this is most of what's going on in my brain. And then because I have the worst memory, like seriously ever, the worst memory, like I'm concerned, I'm gonna have a CAT scan. I have lyrics as a crutch on a pile. I would have a lyric pile. so that if like something bad happened, I forgot, I'd be like, okay, and that's where I am. And some of them are written on the timbales that I play next to me. There's lyrics to songs, or at least catchphrases, like the first word of the verses would be written there. Because most of the songs, Daft Punk, there's a song Daft Punk is playing, I just make it up every time, which is really funny for the people in the front row, because they'll be like, that's not what I'm singing. Like, they're singing along, and like they know it, they're better than I do, and like there's a natural instinct to feel embarrassed that you got it wrong. Like, they're like, I own this, and I'm like, don't worry, this is just, I've done it 1,000 times. It's different every time. I don't know what I'm saying. During the last show, I would crimple up the lyrics. And these have been around. This is footprints and bits of tape and spittle. And I would just crinkle up and I threw them. And that was the only way. It was a way of just being like, I'm never going to sing this song again. And that was super emotional and weird, that act. But during the song, because I'm a neurotic, self-conscious jerk, I had to make music that would not allow me to feel that much in that way, not allow me to stand outside of myself and watch. Because once I do that, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to watch this all. There's a lot of people here. Oh, Jesus, this is terrible. Why are you wearing that? And then the show is gone. And I'm not like a performer. I don't have a great voice. I mean, to me, a performer is like David Bowie. Like, David Bowie could be up there being like, I don't remember the lyrics. And I would just be like, this is what a fucking show. There's no eyebrows. But for me, it's just like, I gotta just do the song or I'm not gonna get through it. And this music's just designed to just be nonstop. And it calmed down during the last tour, but it was about 130 decibels where I stood. And I don't know if you know anything about decibels, but that's illegal, and that's slightly louder than a jet, mathematically true. And everything was aimed at me, and it was nauseating loud. It was so loud that Pat, who plays drums pretty loudly, is right here. And one time his snake died. He had like a snake that had power to it, and it died, and he was turned off. And it was just like watching pantomime. It was like, there's no drum sound because he was so loud in my monitors and everything like that, that it was non-existent. And because of that, then I'm just kind of overwhelmed by sound. And then all I'm doing is trying to remember the lyrics, trying to make sure in the first half of the song that people aren't fucking up or the sound isn't wrong. And then by the second half of the song, and the song's all designed to have these like arcs, that by the time the emotional part comes, by the time the peaks start rising up, I've forgotten everything, and I'm now in the song. And so when that's all happening, I'm not like, this is the last show, because I would just be like, I don't know lyrics anymore. I would have to sing, this is the last show. I can only think one thing at a time. So it was only the between things, and it was only the little things of just being like, when we started finishing, I was like, when I knew I wasn't going to play the cowbell anymore, I would be like, I just threw it over there. It doesn't matter what happens to this anymore. And that was actually really powerful. It's sort of like when people die, except for it's not anywhere near as important as a person who is a sentient being dying. But it's like when people die, like funerals and death, you're like sometimes very confused, but then like setting the table and not setting that table is the shit that can lay you out. So stuff like that is what got me, versus the show itself, which felt more like a wedding or a funeral. You know, like weddings are not when you feel like you're with somebody for the rest of your, it's being like, oh, now we're home, and what do I do with my tuxedo? Like, I think that's the shit that kind of gets in people's heads. So it was that way for me.
We've kind of nearly wrapped up now. This is nearly at the final question that I just have to ask, that I'm sure lots of people want to know before we go, is what's next? What's your next artistic concern?
Putting the band back. No, we big tour with Jay-Z taking my place. No, we're franchising the band to several different markets. No, I don't entirely know because what's next is already now. It's been almost a year. It'll be a year and a couple of days since the last show. And the year has been mostly consumed with making the films, the Shut Up and Play the Hits movie, which is like the less than 2 hour movie, and then the 4 hour concert movie, which is just a bear because it's 100 tracks of audio and 11 cameras for 4 hours. And I've never been that great at being like, well, my manager says it'll be done in a few months. So I guess I'll see a cut. You know, I'm like, I have to kind of be involved. So it's really time consuming. And but it's about the exact same time that I normally get crazy after finishing a tour. About a year later, I'm like, I got to do something. And I just started making music in uncomfortable places. Meaning, normally what I do is to make an album, I go to a place and I turn it into my studio. I go to rent a house or I get a farm and I just like put all my gear there and I just live there. And then I just hate myself for making records and get weird. But this time I'm just like going to people's houses, other people's studios, and just using their equipment and making songs for fun. Because I don't have a band, I don't have a contract, I don't have any expectations. I just get to make songs for no good reason. So I'm just doing that and then we'll see what happens.
Ladies and gentlemen, for me this has been an absolute pleasure and an absolute honour, and I think you probably all feel the same way. Ladies and gentlemen, James Murphy.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. I didn't need any of that. We didn't need any of that. We wound up getting 80%